Hello everybody, my name is Kara Brown. I also write under the name of Faye Black, and we are going to be discussing a plot with layers today. We had this discussion in one of my live streams that I host on Sunday, and it was such of a quality that I wanted to actually do a video on it and kind of expand on it a little bit more. In the live stream, I was really kind of talking more about introspection, about plots that we usually tend to gravitate towards and what we like to write, and how we add our own layers onto that. But obviously I wanted to take that a little further in a video with you guys today, so we'll go ahead and start with my analogy for it, which is cake. Now, the one thing that cake and plot have together outside of the fact that they have layers is that if you're cheap with it, it's going to be cheap. And some people like cheap cake and some people like cake with effort. Same thing goes with plot. You've got people that will gravitate towards garbage writing, and you will have people that gravitate towards really good writing. But we're going to be talking about your cake. So whatever amount of effort that you put into your cake is going to yield a similar effort depending on how you do it. The cake that I'm going to be using in reference to creating plots with layers is going to be tiramisu cake. I will kill somebody for this cake. Do not get between me and this cake. In this cake, if you don't know anything about it, it's a coffee flavored cake. It has ladyfinger breading. It has mascarpone, if I am saying that right. It's going to have coffee syrup. It's going to have like some cocoa powder, and it's got like little tiny elements that when it all comes together, it makes something absolutely delicious. So we'll start with the ladyfingers. The breading of the cake, like I said before, is referred to as ladyfingers. It is not my most favorite breading. In fact, when I went to culinary school and when I worked in a hotel, having to do the ladyfingers was not my favorite part at all because it's very temperamental. But this is the breading of your cake. It is your main plot. It is what individuals came for and is basically what you sold them on. It's going to be part of your book blurb on top of like the hint of everything else that's going on within the story. If you told somebody that this is going to be a romance between a hockey player and his publicist, then it needs to follow that breading. If you don't do that, then they're going to bite into it and they're going to get really confused when they're looking for ladyfingers and you gave them chocolate cake. The main thing with your ladyfingers in this reference is going to be the fact that it needs to have a conflict, and the conflict cannot be easy to resolve. It has to have high stakes, and it has to have something that is meaningful for both your reader and for the character that's going on. If you're trying to pitch something that you know is going to be resolved within chapter 1, probably expand on that. Now, the mascarpone layer, if I'm saying it right, again, I have bad pronunciation, of the cake, is going to be your character arc. It's going to be your romance subplots. It's going to be the stuff that makes that story like extra delicious. It's not going to take away from the main plot. It's going to complement it. So I have to reiterate that because you don't really want to have like multiple plots that don't tie together, which I will discuss a little bit more in the end of this video. But yeah, so that's going to be all like the yummy social interaction, interpersonal conflict and resolution and all that stuff. Everybody comes for that. That's what you want to give them. And by all means, do not skimp. If you put a little bit more in there, ain't nobody gonna complain. So I mentioned earlier that there's going to be like a coffee flavor to this cake, right? So that comes in the form of the coffee syrup. The coffee syrup is the hint of the coffeeness that's usually put into the plot, and that's going to be your world building. And again, you want to have it in there, but you don't really want to shove it down people's throats. And what I mean by that has to do with when you do a lot of research for whatever it is that is involved in your story, and then you want to show it to the reader, but you have to be really careful. Again, we're looking for a hint of this that will ground your reader, give them like that coffee taste, but not like shove it down their throat like a pot of coffee. And the final touch of this is going to be the cocoa powder that goes on the very top. It's usually decorative, and this is going to be the theme of your story. You could say that it is part of the plot, but the theme needs to be strong enough that it can stand out on its own while still all complementing everything that you were trying to create. So I know a couple of you are probably looking at me on your screen going, okay, Kara, thanks for this tidbit and making me hungry for cake, but like, how do I know that if I'm doing it right? Well, I have 6 questions that I'm going to pose for you, and I actually have them written down on my handy dandy sticky note, and I'm going to read them off to you, and these are going to be things that you need to consider when working with your plot. So question number 1 is, does the plot present a complication for your character down the road? You have a hint of it at the start, and then it's going to involve your character in some way that is going to make things harder as they continue to go down the story. If you, again, have a plot with a conflict that is easy to resolve or is not meaningful, your readers are going to pick up on that, and they're very merciless about those things. Question number 2, what foreshadowing do you have woven into your plot? You should have some kind of hints woven into your plot about what's going to happen in the story. One of my friends that I did a critique for actually in his draft had masterfully woven in like little tiny bits of foreshadowing and like little verbal hints about stuff that was going to happen later on in the story, and I was quite tickled by that, and I really like it, and I definitely want him to keep doing that. So question number 3, define the keystone that helps your character solve the puzzle or makes sense that resolves the conflict in the story. I am the kind of person that if there's a conflict in my plot, I usually define what that is first, and then I work the clues into how that person's able to find it after that point. Which I say that, but I'm a planner. Pantsers are going to figure it out as they go, and maybe they might get a little stuck on that. I don't know if you're a pantser and you don't run into that issue. I would love to know your secrets, and so would some of my viewers, so please feel free to share that insight below. But if you define what your keystone information is that helps resolve the plot ahead of time, then you can figure out how to weave in that foreshadowing I was mentioning before. Alright, so question 4 is, how does your internal conflict relate to the plot? This goes back to what I was talking about earlier when I said that whatever you have going on with your story all needs to be woven together. You don't want to have like multiple plots that aren't joined together or are not brought together at some point. So again, ask yourself that question. How is what's going on here affect what's happening over here? Alright, so question number 5 is, how does the plot force your character to face their own character arc? So it depends on your character arc, but how is your plot having an impact on having that character face their lie, overcome their lie, and then grow past it? Question number 6 is going to be, what in your plot forces your character away from the goal or the plot itself? So this is the thing that makes them kind of like go towards it and then back away from it. So what is the key event that stops your character from moving forward and addressing the plot itself? This could be tied into their character arc, it could be an external thing. What is it? And those are the questions that I tend to ask myself. If there is a different way that you add layers to your plot, please feel free to share those down below. I would be very interested to read and see what your process is if you're willing to share. And that might help with some other people who come to the channel and are looking for some kind of writing inspiration. So if you're willing, please let us know, let us grow, let us learn from each other. For those of you who are not aware, I currently have a pre-order out for a book called Caro's Tarot, which is a book about tarot cards that I wrote. It's been my passion project that I have had going on for about 2 years now, and it's finally coming out on October 31st. Tell your friend. But that's available for pre-order for Kindle right now. The paperback is going to come out soon. I'm just waiting on the formatter, and then that baby will be good to go. If you're interested in knowing if I know anything that I'm talking about with regards to any of the story advice I'm giving, I also have these other books over here. If you would like to go take a gander at those, purchase it, peruse it. If you hate it, return it. Or if you really hate it, you can leave a review. All reviews matter as far as I'm concerned. Positive reviews are welcomed as well. I would definitely love to do that. Thank you. But that's going to be me. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the video, and I will talk to you guys all again real soon. Please take care and be safe, and bye.